Hi and welcome back. Today I'm going to make a spread in my handmade junk art journal again. And I'm using those mushrooms that I made this week on Wednesday in my video. I made a bunch of these cute mushrooms with our textured mushroom stamp set and some of my jelly prints. I will link up the video in the end cards and also in the video description. I am searching for some collage paper scraps. I always try to get rid of my tiniest pieces, and I'm picking warm tones that are matching autumnal colors. I'm picking reddish, orangey, and pinkish colors, and I just randomly adhere them to my page. The papers inside of this journal are mainly jelly prints, which were printed to an A4 size paper with a plate that is a little bit smaller than A4. I believe it was the 20 by 25 centimeter plate. And then I cut those papers in thirds, but all with a different height. And then I mixed them up and made this little journal. There is a tutorial available on my channel, and I will link it up as well in the video description. As always, I'm using the Tombow glue stick to adhere my papers. Of course, you can use any other glue stick or gel medium to do this. I always like to incorporate some neutral papers like this old book page that I have stamped on. Just not to overdo it with colorful papers. And if you know my videos, you know that I love it bold and colorful, and I always use a lot of bold and bright colors, but I also always try to balance that out with a little bit of a neutral area on my piece. Well, sometimes I cannot, I just can't do it or don't do it. And then sometimes I'm not so happy with the result, but for me, making art is not about the result, it's absolutely about the process. And although I might cover up some areas of these collage papers, I don't know it at this stage of my creation. And so I have to adhere the papers because I don't have in mind how my next layer is going to turn out and is going to look. And that's the reason why I am covering up stuff that is underneath. I so often get asked this question in comments, why the heck I'm doing that, and it's always sounds a bit negative to me. But I have to say, if you have to ask it, you might be starting out, and then it's a good question, because when I started out, I also did not understand why people are doing this. But once I started creating and doing my own process, I quickly realized why people are doing it, because it's just part of the process. It's enjoyable, and there is always something that is going to peek through from underneath. And this is what makes a piece interesting. And this is where the stuff comes from when you look at a painting and you say, wow, this texture underneath, how did the artist achieve it? And that's simply the reason why I'm not thinking beforehand about what I'm going to do. I just do it. I enjoy my time creating in my journals. And if I'm covering up something, then it's just fine. Sometimes I cover up stuff that I don't like because you do not always create stuff you like. Quite often there is something that is not so pretty, and then it's a good reason to just cover it up. Now that I'm done with my collaging, I go on top with some heavy white gesso and I scrape it over my page, not everywhere, just in some areas to balance out that many textures. And I also try to get some interesting texture with the gesso and that dough scraper. After I have applied the gesso, I will let this dry completely before I come back, and I'm going to use the Distress Crayons to add some color. My gesso is dry and I picked also some warm Distress Crayons to apply color to my page. If you don't have these, you can use, for example, gelatos, and you can also use Neo Color crayons or Stabilo woodies. They might not blend as easy as the Distress Crayons, but then you can just dip your finger a little bit into water and then they will blend just fine. So you have a lot of alternatives compared to these crayons. I love these a lot, but I use them mainly in my sketchbook to create background texture or just to color in areas and then blend it with my fingers. These are quite nice. I do not so often use them on art journal pages or greeting cards. Not sure why, but I often just prefer the Neo colors. And if you don't have any of these water-soluble crayons, I would always go for the Neo colors because you get the best quality at a really good price point. To add more texture to the spread, I'm using some background stamping and I'm picking one of the new Mix It Up #4 stamps. It's with some writing and a grid, and I really like this texture on the background, and I don't stamp it completely onto my page, just in random areas. And I also try not to add too much, just some accents here and there. To get a more autumnal look, I wanted to stamp a frame around the pages with our new autumn leaves. Unfortunately, I forgot to ink up the stamp completely. So I will stamp something else in this area. It is not easy to stamp in such a bulky book, and that's the reason why I'm laying down this big piece of foam. It helps a little bit to get a good impression, but it's not that important for me to get a perfect image here because my main images will be the mushrooms. So it's just some kind of a background texture, and I don't really mind if there's something going wrong. because of the uneven surface. I'm picking different leaves so I have a more interesting frame around everything, and the leaves are from our new autumn leaves stamp set. They are a bit similar to our two rubber sets, which are the twiggy leaves and the I love leaves. So in case you prefer rubber stamps, we have three sets with these kind of leaf prints. There's also a set with two big maple leaves on it. They are super nice. I just wanted to have a clear set because sometimes it's easier to have a clear stamp set because you can see where you are stamping exactly, and some people prefer those over rubber stamps. I wanted to bring in even more texture. This step I should have done before the stamping part, but the idea came later. I'm using a stencil and a wet baby wipe, and I'm removing some of the crayon through the stencil, and this gives some nice textures. It's a bit difficult because of the stamped areas, because they are sitting on top of the crayon and they will be removed when I wipe away through the stencil. But this is a really nice technique, and next time I'm going to use it before I do the stamping. You might be able to guess what's coming next. As always, or almost always, I add some paint splatters with acrylic ink to my spread. I picked black because that matches the black stamped leaves. And I'm also using some gold to give it a even more autumnal look. And I think gold and autumn is just something that goes really well together. I will let these splatters dry, and then I will come back and I will have a look how I want to arrange my mushrooms onto the page. I'm starting with a water-soluble pencil, and I'm just drawing kind of a bottom where I can place the mushrooms on, because I don't want to have them flying on my page. I want something where they can grow out of. And one of my favorite parts is picking the mushrooms that are matching the background the most, and I'm just laying them out on my page, and as soon as I'm happy, I'm going to adhere them. I will pick some wet glue for this because they are quite thick and stable, and then a wet glue works a bit easier than a glue stick, especially on such a bulky surface. And again, if you like to know how I made these mushrooms, check out my video from last Wednesday. There I'm sharing the process for these. It's a project that is perfect for a gloomy, cold day on the weekend. I'm going to stop recording now because the only thing I'm going to do is arranging the mushrooms, adding a sentiment to my page, and that's it. I'm going to leave you with some photos of the finished page. You will find also photos of the spread on my blog, and this will be linked up in the video description. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope you will see us next time. Bye!